Anyone that you're building a relationship with, you need to be honest from the beginning. Otherwise, you're not going to have the relationship that you desire. And I believe ultimately a good relationship is not necessarily how compatible you guys are, but how much you're willing to make the relationship work. Because I've seen relationships with people who are like total opposite, nothing in common, but they're both invested in the relationship and it works. You see relationships with people who are like working together and have great chemistry and all the things, but then in relationship, they don't work because they're not putting in the work. So putting in the work is being vulnerable, understanding yourself, and then sharing that with the other person, not in a way that's making them wrong, but in a way of like, here I am sharing my heart with you. Will you receive it? And that's starting a conscious relationship right there.
Trust flows, surrender, let go. Trust flows, surrender, let go. Trust flows, surrender, let go. I'm the one I've been waiting for.
Welcome back to the Highest Self podcast. My name is Sahara Rose, and on this podcast, I love to talk about spirituality, but make it modern, grounded, and relatable. And my thing is all about that you are allowed to be multidimensional. You are allowed to be spiritual, sensual, successful, and everything in between. And the spiritual journey is not about being one thing or getting somewhere to that nirvana where we have no desires and we are one with totality, but rather it is embodying your full spectrum self, your humanity, your goddessness, and, all the things that make you you. So yes, you can slay it in your business and be a lover girl and be a mystic and be a medicine woman and, honoring these different sides of yourself. And my journey has been taking all of these parts of me and integrating them all together. So I love answering all sorts of questions on this podcast. And now a new tradition we've been doing is you have been submitting your questions in the Apple Store. So when you leave a review, you guys are submitting your questions, and we have been printing these questions out and putting it in this amazing space helmet that I have. Yes, I wore this in a music video, TLC vibes, Feminine is Rising. Oh, wait, I will definitely link that as soon as it's out in September. So in this magical little Xenon spacesuit, I have your questions. And if you want to submit your question for next time, just leave a review for the podcast. Tell me what you love about it. It really means so much to me. And write your question down. And as a free gift, I will send you my womb meditation, which is a meditation to connect to your womb space, which is our home of our divine feminine wisdom, and ask her our questions straight to our intuitive source and receive her answers. So leave a review wherever you're listening to this, like in the podcast app, you go to the bottom where it says reviews, write your question down there, leave a review for the podcast, then take a screenshot and email it over to me at sahara@iamsahararose.com. That's sahara@iamsahararose.com. You can find that email in the show notes. So you'll be able to get your question answered as well as receive my free womb meditation. And before we drop into this episode, be sure to hit subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast. That is the best way to stay up to date on the latest episodes. We've got this in video format, so if you're just hearing my voice, be sure to also watch our fabulous outfits on video as well on Spotify, YouTube, or the Apple Store. This is the best way to stay in the flow with future conversations and also allows the podcast to reach more people. So hit subscribe so I can keep vibing with you on all future episodes. Now let's get into this one. So let's begin with some questions. All right. The first question is, can you share a ritual or practice that helps you connect with yourself after a busy week? Wow. My rituals are everything to me, and they really shift and evolve as I do. Different time periods of my life, I have different practices that really serve me. So when I was really going through my heartbreak and my divorce, my embodiment practice was really how I transmuted a lot of those like heavier emotions. So I created a method called the Triple E method, which stands for emote, embody, and express. So the first thing I would do in the morning is just feel what I was feeling. If I was feeling sadness or anger or grief, I would just feel that. Then I would tune into where do I feel it in my body? Do I feel it in my heart, like this deep sadness? Do I feel anger, like in my hands? Do I feel like heaviness in my shoulders? And I would start to really feel and tune into what does it feel like? Does it have a color? What color is it? Does it have a texture? And I would ask it, what are you here to teach me? What do you want me to know? And then I would start to move that energy. So I'd start to like roll my shoulders or open my heart, which takes into the second E, embody. And I would use my body to embody what I am desiring to experience. So let's say I was feeling loneliness. I desire to feel connection. Now, how do I embody connection with my body? Well, to me, connection might feel like I'm leaned back and open-hearted. I might hold my own hand to feel in connection with myself, my highest self, my ancestors. I might hug myself, love myself, kiss myself, be my own best lover. So I would start to really embody what it is that I am calling in. And then I would express, which is the last E. So I would write down what I was feeling or record a voice memo and just talk out what came up for me, send a voice message to my friend, write poetry, dance, sing, something where I was now transmuting it and expressing it, which gives it form. So this method actually became the method that I now certify people in my school at Highest Self Institute. So you can become a certified embodiment coach and actually create a career for yourself using this method on your clients. And we've had hundreds of people become full-time. I'm talking quit their jobs and they're full-time doing this practice every single day with thousands of clients through the certified embodiment coaching certification at Highest Self Institute. So I will link that below. I will also link my daily embodiment practice, which is an embodiment practice I do through dance. That is a beautiful practice that I do every single day as well, where you set an intention for how you want to feel. And then you actually use your body to dance it and move it. Because when we dance, we go beyond the mind. So I can say, oh, I want to feel joy today. And I could write, oh, I really want to feel joy. I can meditate on joy, 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 joy. Why don't I feel joy? But my energy is not joy, right? I put on Shape of My Heart by Backstreet Boys. I mean, come on. Can you not be joyful listening to that song? You know, I start to, am I the only one? Yeah, yeah. I know that's another Backstreet. Anything Backstreet Boys, I'm very into these days. So I instantly feel a state of joy when I listen to them. And that's what actually brought me on the journey of producing music and creating my album, My Body is an Altar, and my new single, Sexy Dark Night of the Soul, which it definitely is like Missy Elliott vibes, making your dark night of the soul, but making it sexy, which is a state of consciousness. So you can see here, like music is such a palpable part of our embodiment journey. So I will link my embodiment practice. I'll also link my album for My Body is an Altar and my new singles. So these are really good daily practices of just putting on the song that you want to feel. Like if you want to feel sensual, make a sensual playlist for yourself. Get some Sabrina Claudio in there, or whoever makes you feel sensual, and dance sensually on the floor and move your body and feel that Kundalini serpent-like energy that's living in the base of our spine, and do some hip circles and really start to open it up. And you can actually have energy orgasms without even touching yourself, just from really tuning into the energy of sensuality. And when we're able to do this, then we no longer need someone else. We're no longer like, I'm lonely, I need you to feel love, or I'm horny, I need you to feel pleasure. But rather we can tune into these energies by embodying them ourselves. So that allows us to be self-sourced, and then we can choose with discernment. Who do I desire as my partner? Who do I desire as my lover? Someone who meets me emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, someone who's adding value to my life, someone who I feel a deep soul connection with. So it's coming from this higher place, which we call a siddhi, the highest form, rather than a shadow place of, I feel lonely, so I'm going to get on Hinge to talk to someone because I don't want to be alone. Right? So these daily practices actually increase our vibration. So we no longer have that void inside of ourselves. We feel complete. And then we are actually calling in people who are also complete. So if I know that I can live my own greatest romance and be the embodiment of love, and I'm dancing the energy of love and feeling the energy of love and being my own best lover, then I'm not going to settle for some fuckboy who's like breadcrumbing me with a text a week, period. You know, like that's not enough. However, then when someone does show up, I'm like discerning of like, do you romance me the way I romance myself? And naturally now I'm in the vibration of love. So I'm actually calling people in who also operate at the vibration of love. So it's one whole person with another whole person, someone who's self-sourced with someone else self-sourced, and it makes magic together rather than the role mates that most of us are in. I feel a void, you feel a void. Let's try to fill each other's voids, but it never actually really works. You know, we're still feeling lonely even in the relationship. That's like 99% of relationships out there. I don't want to be alone. but then I'm with you and we're still kind of feeling alone because I can't be deeply intimate and vulnerable with you because I haven't been deeply and intimately vulnerable with myself. So this is why your daily practice is everything. It is a non-negotiable to me. And a lot of the practices right now I'm doing, which I share in my embodiment certification, are breath focus. So I'll actually be using breath. So I do this like embodiment breath practice where I'll do breath of fire. So breath of fire are these like rapid exhales, kind of like your belly's punched in. So it looks like, so I like to put my arms up like this, which is like a Kundalini one, but all the way up. I can't do it with this shirt. And so I do breath of fire, and then I will inhale, exhale, and literally body wave my body. And sometimes I'll do a Sufi grind, which is a circle. And so I'll do that like 33 times, hold at the top. As I'm holding from the top, I'm actually pulsing my yoni, which is my sacred feminine portal, AKA vulva vagina. And I'm pulsing my yoni and I'm bringing the energy up my body, up my chakras, through my heart, into my pineal gland and my third eye. So I'm literally moving that Kundalini energy up my body, pulsing it to my third eye. And then I exhale and release everything. And then just stay in the state of breathlessness where I'm like in this beautiful, like in between, like spaciousness within myself. And I repeat that practice 3 times. And every single time I can hold my breath even longer. And I have full like energy orgasms just from doing this, because you actually regain touch with your cervix. And as you do the yoni pulsing, you can actually feel your cervix. So you're giving yourself cervical orgasms literally. And you're just like sitting in like easy pose, So I share this because it's like, you want to feel anything, like you can do a practice to help you feel that way. We go and we try to get someone to make us feel that way. Your daily practice is it. Like your daily practice is like, for me, it's like the best part of my day, and now in the evening, I also do breathwork practices and I'll listen to sound baths and I'll just reconnect back with myself. And it's just such a beautiful like bookend of my day. Whereas what I used to do, I'm going to be honest with you, is I would like, especially during COVID, I would go on TikTok. And then I was wondering why my dreams were like 1,000 like cryptic sounds, because the last thing I was looking at, and it's so addicting, So taking time away from social media and into your own daily practices. And of course, following people on social media who share great practices, Now when I go on social media, it's not triggering for me because it's like all this like amazing wisdom, So your daily practice is not just your practice on the mat. It's your life. It's who do you follow, what conversations you have, who's in your field. Daily practices with your partner, with people you're dating, friendships. Like there are so many practices that we can do to have deeper intimacy. And if we don't practice something, we will fail at it, right? Like we expect to have these amazing relationships. We don't practice the art of relationship. So like a practice I have for, starting a new relationship is I fear, I desire, I love. So sharing with that person that even if you're just dating and it's like very brand new, what do I fear? I fear that you don't have time for this. I fear that I'll get my heart broken. I fear that, we're in a different place in life. I fear whatever the fears are. I desire. What do I desire in relationship in general? I desire to have a partner where we can go on adventures. I desire to have a partner we can do daily spiritual practice with. I desire true sacred union in this lifetime. I desire, someone who I can write poetry with, like whatever your desires are. And then I love, what are the things you love about that person? I love your heart. I love how thoughtful you are. I love the way you communicate. I love the way that you show up. I love what an amazing friend you are, whatever the things are. So you will both go back and forth, say, I fear, and then they say, I fear. You don't respond to each other's fears. Then I desire, partner, I desire. Then I love, partner, I love. And you'll go back and forth and do this. And at the end, you can respond. And this is a really great practice that you can do with even your existing partner, someone new you're dating, anyone in your life. And it just like helps you break down all of the like icky feelings you might be experiencing and come back to the truth of the connection. So practice the things that matter to you. Like relationships to me are the priority of my life. Like my friendships matter to me so much. Love matters to me so much. So something I'm so much more attuned with are practices, my own daily practice. So I can clear like the icks and the shadows and the anxieties that I have within myself, but then coming to practice with friends, romantic partner, anyone. So I know that we are like actually putting in the ground, like framework for the thing to then thrive. So I hope that answered your question. So is it just me, or are the girlies reclaiming their power? I am seeing so many women decide, no, I am not going to give it up to some guy, but instead I'm going to honor my own fantasies. I'm going to dream up, whether it's, fairy sex or a sexy Dirty Dancing Havana Nights moment, whatever your fantasy is. I'm seeing so many girls. We live in for it. Okay. And that's what I love about Dipsea Stories. So they are an app full of hundreds of short, sexy audio stories designed by women for women. So they bring to life any scenario, whether it is an adventurous vacation fling or a second chance romance, or maybe a little rendezvous in Paris, whatever your spice is, they got something for you. So whether you're on your hot girl walk or, on your way to pick up your kids from school, have your me time and explore your fantasies in a way that honors yourself, because our sexual health is part of our wellness. So for listeners of the show, Dipsea is offering an extended 30-day free trial when you go to dipseastories.com/Sahara. That's 30 days of full access for free when you go to dipseastories.com/Sahara. And you can find that link in the show notes. Happy listening.
So trust your intuition, trust your inner wisdom, trust your inner guidance, close your eyes and listen.
All right, back to the interplanetary, megastatic, hydrostatic. There's no gravity between us. Our love is automatic. Zoom, zoom, zoom. Make my heart go boom, boom. My supernova girl, 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 girl. If you know, you know. All right. What are your love languages? And do you think they're important in relationships? Oh, I love this one. Okay. The truth of what I believe about love languages is that we all have the same love language. And that love language is to feel seen, felt, heard, and understood. I believe ultimately that's what we all want, and the other love languages are, they're beautiful little bells and whistles. But if we don't feel seen, you see me for who I am, I see you for who you are. Felt, do you feel me? Do you have empathy for me? When I'm upset, do you feel that upset? Heard, do you actually hear and integrate what I say? Do you take action on what I say? Or is it coming in one ear, going to another? Are you present with me? Understood, do you understand who I am? Do you understand what I stand for? And I feel if these 4 basic things aren't in a relationship, no amount of gifts and quality time and whatever the things are going to make it work. And these 4 things, by the way, it is work to consistently have them. It requires vulnerability. It requires deep conversation. It requires practice. And it's like the 4 things we want the most, but to actually give that to someone else is a real practice. So let's kind of dive into each one, being seen. Do you see your partner? Do you actually see them for who they are? Or do you just see a projection of them? And do you feel seen by your partner in your gifts and who you are? Do you feel like they actually see you? Do you feel felt by them? Do you feel like when you're upset, they're with you, they're nodding their head, they are empathizing with you, they can feel your pain? Even if it's not to the extent that you can, I will say generally as women, we do feel more than men. It's biological. But are they trying at least to meet you there? Do you feel felt, even if it takes some time? And do you feel it into your partner? Do you feel their micro expressions and nuances? It's impossible for us to remain high vibe all the time and be in relationship, because when that partner is feeling something, we're going to feel something. And we need that attunement with our partners. Heard. Am I hearing my partner when they say something? Am I actually taking note of it and integrating it and taking action on it? And are they doing the same to me? Or am I constantly repeating myself again and again and again? I really would love for you to show up in this way. It would mean so much for me if you could show up in this way. What I really need in this relationship is for you to show up this way, but they're still not doing it. So are you being heard? It's one of the worst feelings not to be. And do you feel understood? And this one is interesting because at the core, do we understand ourselves, And it's this is a nuanced one because we are always changing. And I don't feel we ever will get to this point that we totally understand ourselves, because the moment you understand yourself, you do change. So it's a fantasy to have a partner who understands you more than you can understand yourself. I feel like we see that all in movies. It's I understand you more than you understand yourself. And we deeply want that because a core human experience is to not understand ourselves of who am I? And like that is a lifelong journey. That's the spiritual journey of understanding ourselves. And every single day I'm understanding myself more, but who I understood myself to be 3 years ago is not who I understand myself to be today, because that version of me no longer exists. So to be understood, I must always be in practice of understanding myself. And that requires inquiry, meditation, contemplation, daily practices, like I mentioned, breath work and embodiment. If you go on plant medicine journeys, just deep introspection, journaling, coaching, these are all ways of knowing ourselves. And that is the journey of a lifetime. Now, naturally, the more I know myself, the more I will need to be in harmony, in equilibrium with someone who's also on that journey. Now, their journey may not be as in-depth as yours. I find that often in relationships, there's like one person who likes spirituality is like more of their life. And for someone else, it might be like naturally a part of them, but they're not like doing as much practice, but still they are in practice, right? If they've never even asked themselves, who am I? They don't even like really care about that. And that's your whole life. There's going to be some disharmony there. However, they may naturally understand you in this way that doesn't really require so much necessary practice. So I'm not saying leave your relationship if someone's like not in deep spiritual practice all the time, but do you feel like they understand you? Do you feel like you're getting through to them? Do you feel like they understand the gist of who you are? And the only way we can do that is to understand ourselves and then to express that. I can understand myself, but then not tell anyone. And then how do I expect to be understood when I'm not letting them know? A key part is it's like we can't be that teenager that like goes into their bedroom and shuts the door and is like, you don't understand me. It's like I go to these practices to understand myself, but then in a vulnerable time in the relationship, I might need to say, hey, when you're working all the time, it brings up my core childhood wound of feeling unimportant. And that started with my dad, who was working all the time, and in previous relationships where he was working all the time. And it's just how it feels for me is it brings up that childhood wound. And I just want to express that with you. And again, it's not saying you're wrong or you need to fix this or you need to change. It's just sharing your experience of your understanding of yourself. And then naturally that person is going to lean in and, be grateful that you've shared with them that. So then they know when, they're working a lot, that maybe a text means a lot to you or checking in means a lot to you. And they'll understand more where you're coming from, but you can only have them understand that by you sharing that. And I feel in relationships and friendships, we need to be a lot more explicit with our communication than most of us are. Like we try to show them like being a little bit withdrawn in this, but like they may be based on their own traumas and experiences, take you being withdrawn around something totally else. They might think that they were too much and you want more space from them. So you being withdrawn, they might get more withdrawn too because they're afraid of getting rejected. So then it's the opposite of what you want. You wanted them to lean in more. So you're leaning back. So then they're leaning back, as opposed to saying, no, I actually want more intimacy. I want to be more in touch with you. I want to be more involved with you. And it's vulnerable to say that and to, have them say, well, I can't. But anyone that you're building a relationship with, you need to be honest from the beginning. Otherwise, you're not going to have the relationship that you desire. And I believe ultimately a good relationship is not necessarily how compatible you guys are, but how much you're willing to make the relationship work. Because I've seen relationships with people who are like total opposite, nothing in common, but they're both invested in the relationship and it works. You see relationships with people who are like working together and have great chemistry and all the things, but then in relationship, they don't work because they're not putting in the work. So putting in the work is being vulnerable, understanding yourself, and then sharing that with the other person, not in a way that's making them wrong, but in a way of like, here I am sharing my heart with you. Will you receive it? And that's starting a conscious relationship right there. And by the way, even if you're in a long-term relationship, you can always evolve to becoming a conscious relationship. They don't necessarily start that way. These are some good questions. Loving them. Oh my God. How do you start a conscious relationship? You can't make this shit up. Wow. Okay. Everything I just said. I feel, okay, what is a conscious relationship? To me, it's a relationship where we're going in with our eyes open. Most of us go into relationships with our eyes closed. Could this be the one? Could this be the one that will never break my heart? And then I will never have to experience that pain of heartbreak again. Maybe this is finally the one. And then we're coming into it with all this like projection of this is the person who's going to solve all my problems and I'm never going to have to experience pain. Let me tell you something, honey. Every relationship is going to break your heart. Even if you're together for the rest of your life, you will break each other's heart multiple times. However, that heartbreak might be through hard conversations, changes in your life, chapters in your life. The heartbreak doesn't necessarily have to be from you guys separating. But if you don't go through those heartbreaks of getting closer together, you will have the heartbreak inevitably of separating. So to start a conscious relationship is to be awake to the fact that in every relationship, there is a heartbreak. You cannot have the love without the suffering. And just to accept that, to accept I'm going into a mixed bag and I'm going to feel it all, right? And I really don't believe that there is the one. I don't believe there's just one person that we're destined to only be with like forever and like that's it and it's just finding that person. I believe there are soulmates, 100%, like people who we know from past lives that we have a deep soul level connection with. But I don't believe that it's necessarily destined to be. You still have to show up and do the work. And often your traumas are going to mirror each other and trigger each other. And their traumas are going to be related to your ex's traumas. And it's like, that's the work right there, you know? And it's like the excavation work that is the work of your lifetime. Likely the relational wounds that you're healing in that relationship are related to your ancestry. You know, so you might be overcoming a core wound of abandonment in the relationship because the women in your family have been abandoned. So you're sitting with learning that it is safe for me to be in this relationship and it is safe for me to trust because no woman in your family ever has before. So I find it's like love is like Cupid strikes its arrows around the two people that have like the greatest work to do together, you know? And it's like, crazy because it's like you really can't control like who you fall in love with. You can have all the lists and all the things, but sometimes they're like the list and sometimes they're not. And sometimes part of them is, but then it's like, poof. And when you feel that, like that energy between two people, it's almost like there's no stopping that ship. Like some shit's going to go down and the level of consciousness you bring to it is like how high vibrational it's going to be. You know, you might have a lot of attraction and just come in with lots of shadows, lots of projections, not seeing each other, and then it's going to diffuse really fast and probably really heartbreaking. Or you can go into it, which is the second thing, with vulnerability. The vulnerability of, here are my hurts, here are my wounds, I fear, here are my desires, here's what I desire in my life right now in general, like outside of this relationship, where am I in my life? Am I calling in relationship or not? You know, like I find as women, we tend to be more like calling in partnership. Whereas I find most men tend not to be. In fact, I hear from a lot of men, they're like actively trying to not call in partnership because society tells men you need to focus on your work and you need to be at a certain place in your business and financially before you can even think about a relationship. And, you know, even a lot of women tell men this. So they're like, I don't want to be in a relationship until I have X amount in the bank. But the delusion is that day never comes because however successful you get, there's always higher levels. However much money you have, there's always higher levels. There just comes a point in your journey where your values and your priorities shift. So a man whose values and priority are working all the time, you know, it's going to be harder for him to truly be in a conscious relationship because a conscious relationship takes prioritizing the relationship. Now, he may meet someone and that causes him to shift his focus because he realizes that a conscious relationship is the greatest catalyst to his growth. But he needs to realize that on his own. And you can't make someone realize this. So both people need to realize the value of a conscious relationship. Now, I would say a conscious relationship, like sacred union, is the most powerful healing force on this planet. Like two individuals coming together as one who are like loving each other and giving to each other wholeheartedly is the most beautiful and powerful thing. Because love on like a rational perspective makes no sense. It's like, you're just going to care for the stranger as if they're your family. Like, no, that's a huge liability, you know, but that's God energy right there. To like care for a stranger as if they are you, to see them as an extension of you. It's like when you love someone, it's like you want to give them like the best of the herbs and the supplements that you would take yourself. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like you see them as you, right? And that's how you know you really are loving someone. It's like you literally treat them how you would treat yourself. You want the very best for them. And it's a phenomenon. It's like, it's the only way that humans can survive is through love. You know, if we just try to make sense of like, okay, what are you giving to me? And I can only give you back. It's like, that's being an accountant. You know, you can't be in a relationship with an accountant and being an accountant. Only two lovers can be in a relationship. So To start a conscious relationship is to accept that there's going to be vulnerabilities, but also to deeply desire the gift, the siddhis that come from relationship, which are to see yourself in another, to have the ultimate mirror, to have the ultimate partnership. Like, friendship is so amazing and needed, and always hold on to your friendships and value your friendships. And I know there's questions about friendships coming up. We'll jam about that. And like, romantic partnership is like, it's a different feeling, because with your romantic partner, you want to be with that person all the time. Like, you want to live together. You want to do everything together. You want to experience life together. And that is a really different quality than with your friend. You can be best friends with someone, and like after like a week of them staying with you, you're probably like, okay, bye, you know? But with your romantic partner, you don't feel that way, because the design is different, right? Like, you're designed to do life together. So also, be clear with, if you are wanting a conscious relationship, be clear with someone that's what they want. If someone's like, yeah, I want someone that I just see like once a week, or someone that we just go on trips sometimes and that's it. And for you, conscious relationship is like, we are in union, we have daily practices together, we are immersed in each other's lives and friends, and that's deeply what I desire. There may be two different things. And again, they might be in a phase of their life that like, maybe that is what they want one day. They just can't have that now, but they want that one day. It can still work. But if their vision for a relationship is different than your vision for a relationship, then it can't. I find, though, the intelligence of love often pairs us with someone. Cupid strikes us with someone who tends to have a similar relational style to us. And I also feel in the union, as you go along, it takes its own shape and form, and you find your own flow. I also find in different levels of your healing, you crave different levels of intimacy. If you're just coming out of a relationship, you're healing, you might desire more spaciousness. You know, if you're super in your work, you might desire more spaciousness. If you have more avoidance, you might desire more spaciousness. If you are like wanting to be a mother, you're going to desire deep intimacy. If you're wanting to get married, you're going to desire deep intimacy. If you're codependent, you're going to desire deep intimacy. So you have to really like look at all of these things, and where is that coming from, and what parts of it are related to your phase of your life, and what part of them are related to attachment style. And at the end of the day, it's going to be kind of both, right? Like, and I just don't want you to have the dance of like the avoidant and anxious person who like are never getting their needs met. You know, I've seen relationships with people, like I had a friend that she started a relationship and they didn't even talk every day. I was like, what? And they liked that. It worked for them. They wanted a relationship where she was in her business, he was in his business. And after like a year of, they would like talk every other day and see each other, but then kind of during the week, not talk much. Now they got married and they live together, and it's great. That's how their relationship started and what felt right for them. And then other people, it's like they meet and they like have a baby the first week of meeting. Like I literally have friends that have done that. It works for them because they're like, I'm in this. I want to be with you through everything. So it's like we can anywhere in between, right? So it actually requires you being honest with yourself with like, what do you really desire, and communicating with that person and early on. And if that person's like, yeah, that's not a fit for me, that's not what I desire, better to know sooner. Or if it's like, okay, maybe this isn't possible for me right now, but it's something I would want, and you don't have to make it around, I want to communicate with you this much. You could just say, in a relationship, I desire a relationship that looks like this. And then it's not so much about them or you, it's just about what you're looking for in your life. So I find just being really honest with the type of relationship you want is how you start a conscious one. Do you see yourself one day starting a podcast, writing books, speaking on stages, sharing your message with the world? But the thing is, you are afraid that you're not a good enough speaker yet. Maybe you're inspired by people like me and Gabby Bernstein, and you know you have it within yourself too, but you just don't know where to start. Well, I have gotten this question so many times, and this is why I've created my Speak with Soul 21-day method. This guides you from awkward to confident speaker in just 3 weeks' time. I guide you through daily prompts, practices, and share all of the wisdom that I have learned as a professional speaker, podcaster, author, and someone who literally makes a living sharing my voice as well as through music, and how you can too in your own unique way. So the testimonials from Speak with Soul are insane. I have seen people literally be hired to host their own radio shows. Hundreds of people start their own podcasts, create YouTube channels, IG live series, get book deals, the list goes on. So whether you want to professionally share your voice or just get better in conversation and connection and just feel more confident in what you say and not feel like you're so in your head, and release any fears or hesitations you have around the way that your voice sounds and its pitch, well, this course covers all of it. So it's just 10-minute daily videos for 21 days that I promise you, if you follow this process, you will be a completely other person on the other side. Because the truth is, when is the last time you spent any time on your speaking? For most of us, it was like maybe an awkward speech in high school and we never touched it again. So speaking is the way that we communicate with the world. It's the most important thing we can do. It's the way that we get our message across. And I know if you're listening to this podcast, you have a really important message to share because regular people don't listen to this podcast. So if you're feeling the call, come join me in Speak with Soul. I have a special 25% off discount for you listed below. So head over to the show notes or over to speakwithsoulcourse.com. That's speakwithsoulcourse.com to receive the 25% off right now. And you can also find that link in the show notes. I'm so excited to hopefully be on your podcast. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. What's something you love to learn? As an adult, do you make time to learn new things as often as you'd like, or was that lost in childhood? So as kids, we're always learning and growing, but as adults, sometimes we lose that curiosity. So what's something you'd like to learn? For me, dancing is my number one thing. I love going to dance classes, but I've been really craving doing more pottery. So therapy can help you reconnect with your sense of wonder because your back to school era can come at any age. If you're thinking about starting therapy, I highly recommend giving BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. You just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. So rediscover your curiosity with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/Sahara today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Sahara, and you can find that link in the show notes. All right, back to the magic space helmet. How do you approach healing old wounds that resurface in new relationships? Okay, I feel it's cuffing season with these questions. You know, we're recording this during Cancer season. I'm seeing everyone's falling in love right now, and I'm here for it. All right, this is a good one. Inevitably, old wounds are going to resurface in new relationships because the last experience you have in a relationship, you're going to always be comparing this new one to that until you come to the realization that that relationship with that person was an anomaly. You're never actually going to have the same relationship with someone that you are going to have with that person. We can try as hard as we can to see the patterns between them and be really afraid that the whole thing's going to happen again. Even if those two people have the exact same traumas, the way that they manifest is very different. You know, look at siblings. They grew up in the same exact family, but they come out super different. So I feel our minds, for safety, try to say, oh, this person had a similar trauma to them, or they remind me of my ex in this way, so I know how it's going to go down. Forecast, you know, whatever happened in your previous relationship. And that's a different person. And you're a different person. And this is a new relationship. And another thing is that we really can't learn the same lesson twice. So if you feel that you've actually learned the lesson from that relationship, you're done with that lesson. You're not going to repeat it twice. You're going to have new lessons, guaranteed, but you're not going to repeat that same lesson. Now, if you feel like you haven't learned that lesson, then yeah, you are going to keep dating the same person again and again and again because you haven't learned that lesson. But if we sit down with it, do our shadow work, go do our celibacy. Like, I'm a huge fan of just like being by yourself and sitting with the lessons of that relationship after. Then we can really start to look at what were my core childhood wounds that were active in this? What were my ancestral patterns active in this? You know, how did I maybe rush into this relationship and not see certain aspects that could have been red flags? You know, how was I okay with certain treatment in the relationship? When you start to really do that work, something energetic happens that now you don't actually need to relearn that again. But what we do is then we just assume every relationship is just going to be that, and it's not. You often end up in a relationship with someone who's totally different. When you've actually done the work, I find your next relationship is tends to be like the opposite of that person. And now you might just be sitting with a whole other like web of things of like, wait, I was used to really avoidant men. This guy is like obsessed with me, but now it's bringing up my avoidance, you know? So I find that we like try out other sides of the spectrum. And so we can't expect any relationship to be the same because we are the universe experiencing itself. So we're going to experience ourselves in like a whole wide range of different things. You might be, you know, the black cat in one relationship, the golden retriever in another relationship, maybe the snake in another relationship. You know that they say the black cat, golden retriever thing. If you haven't heard of it, they say the black cat is like the person who like is willing to walk away. And the golden retriever is the one who like wants the relationship more. So it's kind of like avoidant, anxious. But like we're like telling people to be the avoidant one in the relationship. We're telling people to be the black cat. And I think ultimately we both want to be koala bears. You know, we both want to be like open to a state of love and like choosing each other. But that does come with building safety and building trust. Building safety and building trust. Yeah, learn the lessons from your previous relationship. You know, they're there for a reason. You learned those lessons for a reason, but you can't now assume now you know how it's going to go. And this is why it's really important to have your own coach, you know, so you can work through those things with your coach. And that way you're not bringing it necessarily to your partner because your partner is not there to coach you through the wounds of your old relationship. They may come up, but have them come up in a way that you have worked through it yourself. And now you might be sharing with them, you know, I experienced this withdrawal when you said this, or it brought me back to this core wound rather than like, you need to be the one to process this with me. You know, our partner is not meant to be our coach. Our partner is here to be our partner, is here to be our lover, is here to be our companion. And yes, there is going to be moments where we might be like kind of coaching each other and vulnerable with each other, but they're not the person that you're here to like go through every little fear that's coming up in the relationship because that's going to be triggering for them because they are like the cause of it, but it's really you and you, you know? So I love to sit with coaches. I always hire new coaches who are like experts in what I'm experiencing right now. You know, I follow Instagram accounts that are related to that. So if I'm in like new relationship energy, I will follow people who teach about new relationships. If I'm in dating energy, I'll follow people around dating and I'll be coached by those people, read books on that, listen to podcasts on that. So I'm doing my own work in myself. So I'm not ever bringing it to that other person, expecting them to like change or be the solution, but rather I know everything I'm experiencing is my own work and I am taking ownership and responsibility of my side of the street. And the only way a conscious relationship can work is if we're both doing that. All right. Hope that helped. Back to the spaceship. What do you think is the key to maintaining a long-lasting friendship? Well, every month I got my bestie here, Rosie, here on the podcast. And I actually am a master at friendships. I have a good number of like true best friend sisters that I've had for like 8+ years and, you know, are like ride or dies that I'll have forever. And people ask me a lot about friendship, and I'll link some of the friendship episodes I have below because it's something I've shared a lot about. But a key to a long-lasting one, I feel, and what I've looked at between friendships that kind of fizzle away and long-lasting ones are involving each other in your lives today. I feel when we lose touch with someone, we go on our own personal journey. They go on their own personal journey. And then the kind of roads feel further and further and further and further away. And then we start to kind of feel like, oh, what's the point of even reaching out to them? They probably don't want to hear everything I'm going through, or I don't even have time to really keep up with them. And the truth is, all of your friends are going to be in different chapters and seasons of your life. Like, there are very few long-term friends you're going to have that you're like, both single at the same time or both, you know, having kids at the same time or whatever. You might make new friends that are your like chapter friends, right? But those long-term friends, they're on their own journey, right? So like, for example, I'm thinking of a couple of my friends right now. Okay, when I met one of them, I was in a long-term relationship. She was single. Now she has a baby and I'm single, you know? So it's like, I've watched her go through that whole journey and she's watched me go through my whole journey. And we're always like kind of in different chapters, right? But we stay in touch with each other no matter what. And that's often through voice notes for me, because that way I can share what's happening. I can check in with her, but it's less like we need to hop on a Zoom call because it's like kind of hard with schedules. And different friends I kind of keep in touch with on different things. I have some friends that I'm like more involved with like how I feel like every day. I have friends I talk to every single day. I have some friends I talk to like once a week. I find like the friendships that I talk to every day are like the most fulfilling friendships for me, but you can't have as many of them. It takes time. I would say I have like 2 of those, you know? And then you have like kind of like, yeah, different vibes of friends. You have some friends that it's like really playful and fun. Some friends it's really spiritual and deep. Some friends that's like about a certain topic that you guys love to have. But I think again, it's like continuing to build together, continuing to build new memories with each other. And that's another thing. Like you might have a best friend from college, but all you guys talk about are your college memories. So after a while, it's going to get boring because now you have all these new characters of your life, new things in your life. And it's like, you don't really care to talk about what's going on in college. So unless you're creating new memories together or, you know, and bringing each other along on the journey, it's like the friendship is going to diffuse. So bringing them along on your journey, traveling together, visiting each other, like making the same time and prioritization as you would a romantic relationship. And, you know, some friendships can withstand like longer periods of time of not seeing each other. And again, everyone has different levels of connection. I know some people, they talk to their best friend once a week, you know, some people talk to their best friends once a month. I'm multiple times a day, you know? So it's just as like depends on you and your vibe. And I feel like it's just like a relationship. It's a co-creation, right? And different seasons of life too. Like if someone just had a baby, you're probably not going to hear from them as much. Someone just got a new relationship, you're probably not going to hear from them as much. Someone's really going through something big, you're probably going to hear from them more, you know? So I also find like in my like core 10 best friends, you know, certain friends I'm closer with in certain stages of their life. I've for example, one of my friends going through a breakup right now, I can really support her on her breakup, you know, because I've been there. And then other friends, like the one with the baby, I can't really support her on that. I'm sure she has other people she's going to for support on that as well. So I find there's like natural ebbs and flows in certain friendships as well. But the core, like if you really desire like best friend ride or die, that's like a daily practice. You know, I'm messaging those people daily. I'm checking in with them daily. It is a true relationship that I'm cultivating and continue to put time into. But for me, I love the depth of that kind of relationship where it's like family and sisterhood. And that satisfies me more than like, I feel when you're not super involved, it becomes more of this reporting of like, here's what happened to me since last time I saw you. Oh, that's what happened to me. And then it can even go into that like complain and coffee, which I always talk about, which is like, let's meet up for coffee once a month. Here are all my grievances. Oh, great. Here are mine. Take turns, complain. And then like, that's it. And I would say like, that's how like most friendships are these days. And I also tune in with my body. Like, if there's a friend that after I'm around them, I always feel like low and bad. And I get sometimes people are going through a phase in life, a heavy phase in life, and like I will give them grace. But if it's always that, it's just not a friendship I prioritize. You know, it's like, and me and my best friends, we go into some dark, shadowy corners, but there's still this energy of like hope and like support in that it makes me want to keep going. So, and I know what you might be thinking is, well, I don't have a friend like that, you know? And it's like, well, surprisingly enough, like for me, like my maybe 2 closest best friends are like definitely not people I would like expect to be my best friends. And, you know, if you like saw their social medias, like we're like nothing alike, you know, like Rosie's like dark and goth. And another of my friend Allie, who I talk to every day, she's like makes like sourdough bread every day and like lives in the middle of nowhere and like forages for things. And we're just super different, you know, but it's like, it's our connection and like how we've come together that has created this amazing bond. So I would say that lean in and start just like send someone a voice note and ask them how they are and just start being that friend. And they may actually love that and step up to the plate and you may create something beautiful. I also find that both of those friendships became a lot closer when I became more vulnerable after my divorce. So sometimes it's like when you're going through it and you feel like no one wants to help you, it's actually being vulnerable in those times that deepens the friendship because a lot of people are like, I want to have closer friends, but I don't even know what to say. And so those are opportunities where you can go deeper. Do 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 do. What practices do you turn to for strengthening your inner voice and intuition? Whew. I find that definitely having my daily practice that I mentioned to you at the beginning of the episode. And for me, going on walks, hiking, spaciousness, being in movement, ecstatic dance. That is where I actually like open up to receive things. So like the other day, I just felt like I really needed to go out into the mountains. So I drove out to the mountains, just me and my pup, and I was just walking. And I find as I'm walking up the mountain, I'm doing a lot of the like heavier processing shadow work, energetically. I'm like going up the mountain and it's like the heaviness of that. And then I find at the peak, I like reach this like, eureka moment. And then as I'm coming down, the energy is a lot like lighter. And I feel this, like I've come to a natural resolution. Every time I'm like, damn, the mountain is just such a metaphor to life. Like, this is why we love mountains, right? Like we go up the mountain, we go up the journey, we have the issue, the problem, we find our pinnacle, and then we come down, and it's a cycle and it never ends. So if you live near mountain or forest or nature, that's like the number one thing I would suggest. And then the second thing is ecstatic dancing, which is a form of free flowing dancing. So I DJ ecstatic dances. I will link below my SoundCloud where I put some of my ecstatic dance sets out there. And I definitely recommend Googling an ecstatic dance near you. They have them all around the world now. If you go on like websites like eventbrite.com, meetup.com, or just on Instagram, Facebook, you'll likely find an ecstatic dance near you, or you can even facilitate one. You could play one of my playlists, gather some people in a yoga studio or a church or whatever. And there's one rule: no talking. That's the only rule of ecstatic dance. And it's just a place to let yourself free. You can dance, you can cry, you can roll on the floor. And what's so cool is that when no one's talking to you, you can get so much deeper into yourself. Whereas if you're at a club, it's like you got your little drink, which is poison. And then like everyone's like being all cool and no one's even dancing at the club. Like, hello, I grew up thinking the club, like we were going to be doing like honey, like dance offs with each other. I was like so excited to head to the club when I was a kid. I was like, yeah, I'm going to fuck this club up. Like I was like listening to Gina. I was like, I'm ready for it. She got her apple bottom jeans, boots with the fur. The whole club was looking at her. She hit the flow. Next thing you know, shorty got low. That's what I was ready for. And then when I started going clubbing, it was not that. It was hey, do you want a drink? What's your name? You know what I mean? That's not so fun. And that's why I stopped drinking when I was 21. So to channel your highest thoughts and have your best idea, go to ecstatic dance. See, I was so present and so in the moment that I even forgot where I was. I was channeling source. And see, that's what happens when you're in a state of consciousness. You're just like, what? Ideas coming through. So I think now I need to create an ecstatic dance nightclub. That's clear what's in the field right now. So thanks for being with me for that experience, guys. We can be business partners on it. Don't worry. Okay. What advice would you give your younger self just beginning their spiritual journey? Whew. So I began my spiritual journey with yoga, and I got really into first like vinyasa. So I started practicing like hot yoga, like a Bikram yoga when I was 13 years old. I don't know what it was. I just saw this in my town. It's like yoga. And I was like, I want to start doing that. And I'd have my mom like after school, and I would wear like sweatpants. Like I didn't even like understand, but I just loved it. I loved the feeling of it. I loved the heat of it. So I started practicing yoga a lot in my teenage years. And then later on, when I was in college, I started to get really into Ashtanga yoga. And Ashtanga yoga is a very vigorous practice. And the way that you do it is Mysore style. So you do it for 3 hours first thing in the morning. So I was like obsessed with yoga. And if I didn't do it for one day, like my whole body like hurt. And then from doing yoga, I was like a raw vegan, and I would just like read the Bhagavad Gita. And I was like very like strict on myself. And I felt like that's what spirituality was. And I was very like, I don't want to go to the club. I don't want to do this. I don't want that. I don't want that. And I feel that that differentiation stage is like necessary in your spiritual journey, because you need to be like, I'm not part of that old reality anymore. What I would say, what I would tell myself now is it didn't need to be so strict. Like I could have gone to the club and have fun if I wanted to sober, you know? I didn't need to just be like by myself, like reading spiritual texts, doing yoga. I really like, because I was going through a spiritual awakening, it was almost like I couldn't be around people that weren't really spiritual. And I didn't know any other spiritual people. So I was just by myself all the time. And then I moved to India, and I was like literally alone in India. But that was my journey, and that's what I needed. But I would say now the integration is I get to have fun, you know, like I get to wear cute outfits. I get to like do my hair. By the way, do you guys like the blonde for the summer? Having a lot of fun with it. And like, That's spiritual too, because beauty is a spiritual path. Femininity is a spiritual path. Joy is a spiritual path. Dance is a spiritual path. And it's not so like, this is good, this is bad. Now I'm spiritual, so I won't do that. That's more duality and divisiveness. And it actually creates more separation. So I would tell myself, have more fun with it. And that would lead me to a natural place of more integration. What advice would you give to someone struggling to find their purpose in life? Well, I only just wrote an entire book on it. So let me tell you real quick. So your purpose in life is called your Dharma, your soul's purpose. It's more than your job. It's more than your career, but it is who you are. It is your expression. It is your soul essence. It is who you're meant to be in this lifetime. It's like the energy and the essence that your soul chose to embody and experience. It's like your popsicle flavor, and only you can uniquely be that popsicle flavor. Now it can express through the jobs that you have, the roles that you play, the relationships that you have, the projects that you build. These are all an expression of your Dharma, but your Dharma is beyond it. So Dharma is an ancient Sanskrit word. It comes from the Vedic wisdom, which is also what yoga comes from, Ayurveda, Jyotish, Vedic astrology. So I like to think of Dharma as your unique jigsaw place in the universe. So if the universe was an entire puzzle, it's like where you fit. So it's not just who you are, but it's who you are in action. It's like, this is my soul energy. Now, how does it manifest in this human form? So for me, and I believe at the highest level, all of our dharmas are the same, which is to raise consciousness. I believe we're all here ultimately to raise consciousness, but we're all going to do it in different ways. So my Dharma is to raise consciousness through sharing spirituality in a way that is modern, fun, and accessible. Now, I do this through writing my 4 books. I do this through my coaching institute, Highest Self Institute, where I've trained thousands of coaches to become full-time Dharma coaches. So I even have a certification. So if you're interested in this and diving into your own Dharma, I have a full 6-month certification on becoming a Dharma soul purpose and spiritual life coach. I do it through this podcast. I do it through social media. I do it through my music. I do it through speaking engagements. I do it through every interaction that I have. Like if I meet a friend or, having a conversation with someone at a networking event, I'm always living my Dharma. It's like who I am and my essence. I've got like a sparkly essence. It's kind of like a turquoise peach energy. I'm kind of funny, mixing some 2000s throwbacks. And then you got me, right? Sacred, playful, ancient, future, all together with some reps, and that's my Dharma. And it shifts and evolves. Like I step into different archetypes within myself, but the underlying essence of who I am is the same when I was a kid and it's the same when I'm on my deathbed. Like this is who I am. I'm hot pink, right? And that's your Dharma. So I've written a whole book on this called Discover Your Dharma, and I will link that below. It's on Audible. It's on Amazon. It's published in like 24 languages. It's in Spanish, French, Polish, Russian. It's like, I'm so proud of this book. It like really has created a whole like web of Dharma coaches that are taking this work out into the world. And a tool that I have is called the Dharma Archetype Quiz. So this is a quiz that you can take in just 90 seconds to discover your unique Dharma archetype. Now, these are 9 archetypes I most commonly see in people's dharmas, their soul's purposes. So they are the teacher, the nurturer, the entertainer, the researcher, the warrior, the activist, the nurturer, the entrepreneur, and the teacher. So you're going to take this quiz and it's going to tell you what your top 2 archetypes are and how they now manifest in your Dharma. So for example, I am a visionary and a teacher. So for me, I'm a visionary. I'm always going to see the higher level perspective of things. My gift is my voice, my communication, my ability to inspire. To inspire means to breathe. And naturally, that's who I am. That's my biggest Dharma on this planet. But my secondary one is a teacher. I'm also good at teaching it and like helping people like take something complex like spirituality or creating a business, living your Dharma. And I'm able to break it down into step-by-step actions through creating my curriculums, explaining things on this podcast, writing books. So you can see here, I'm very much living my Dharma. I also have a third one, which is the artist. So the artist is, here to create beauty in this world, which is why everything I do has a beauty essence to it from this podcast set. Thank you very much. If you're not watching this on video, highly recommend. To, my cookbook, which was like all shot in India with like gorgeous street photography and the way I plated things. I started my career as a food blogger to making my album and creating music and music videos. I'll link some of my music videos, like my new one that just came out, Sexy Dark Night of the Soul. I directed it to be that dark night of the soul moment I had sitting on the couch, finding out that my ex-husband had been cheating on me, which sent me into a dark night of the soul, like on my knees, breakdown moment where my life was over. And I never felt such pain in my entire life. And girl, that pain lasted for 6 months. 6 months of deep, deep, deep pain and agony and misery and anger and shadow work and just so much disgust and rage and all of the things. Then after 6 months of really, really deep shadow work, I started to create music because I couldn't even read a book at that time. Like I could not even, it's like trauma brain. You can't even understand what someone's saying. I couldn't read a book. I couldn't listen to a podcast. I could just listen to music. And so through listening to music, I started to hear music deeper. And I started to notice like, oh, damn, like these layers, like, were they always there? Like, was I hearing those before? Like those ad libs. And I started to like really come up with my own melodies. I started to learn music production. I started to hear production a different way. And then writing poems and then putting the poems together with the production, which led to my first song, Trust, Flow, Surrender, Let Go. Trust, Flow, Surrender, Let Go. I'm the one I've been waiting for, which went on. And, you know, now it's played on radio stations in Africa and creating my album of My Body as an Altar. And then this music video, Sexy Dark Night of the Soul, which is me on my knees, breaking down, crying, my future self coming through. She's hot pink. She's got like a 50-inch braid and she's like moto bitch. And she's like, if you've had a dark night of the soul, do you know what I mean? Those on your knees moments, I want you to know your sexiest days are yet to come. This is for you. Look, nothing lasts forever except my swag, so I'd rather be extra than your regular ass. I know I'm cheering louder than the girl I used to be, so I do this shit for her, become who she meant to be. It goes into a full rap. They are calling me the spiritual Fergie, which I'll take that. And so you can see my artist archetype paired with my visionary and teacher took the most shitty thing that's ever happened to me in my existence and turned it into art and expression in a teaching moment that I can now be here sharing with you. That is Dharma in action. And another tool that I have in the book, in Discover Your Dharma, which again, it's linked below, is your Dharma blueprint. So it's taking the obstacles you've overcome, like that obstacle of infidelity. It's taking your superpowers. What are the things that come naturally to you, easy to you, that don't come easily to other people? What are the mediums that come through you? Is it writing, speaking, coaching, music, creating Excel sheets, planning parties? What's exciting for you? Because excitement are the breadcrumbs guiding us towards our Dharma. What are the things you're Google searching or chat GPTing? What are the conversations you want to have? What are the podcasts you're listening to? That's your excitement. Your excitement is guiding you somewhere. And then what are your Dharma archetypes? And bringing those 5 things together, I guarantee you put those on a piece of paper, you stare at them, you put them on your refrigerator, you will remember your Dharma in this lifetime. So again, the link to the book, the link to the quiz, and the link to join the waitlist for the Dharma certification, where you'll spend 6 months with me live. Every single week, I do Q&A calls where like you are asking me your questions and I'm coaching you on these calls. You're also going to be coached with one another, Dharma coached every week. So if this is a thing for you, you're like, I really want to step into my Dharma in this lifetime. Like I want to be doing what I love full time. I don't want to be like the version of me at my job and the version of me now. Like I want to be me always. Well, this is the book for you, and this is the certification for you. And whether you want to be a coach doing this or it's just for yourself, spending 6 months diving into your Dharma will shape you as a person. I mean, imagine every single week, and you could do like 3 sessions a week and be Dharma coached by people, 3 hours a week. Imagine where you will be in 6 months. Guarantee you living your Dharma. Because most of us, like our only like question around our purpose has been like the guidance counselor at school that's like, oh, your grades are like this, so I think you could go to this college, and like, you seem to be good at this class, so maybe you should like do this job. It's like life. You know that board game Life? You like pull a card. It's like, you're a police officer and you make this much. You know, it's like, hello, like, did my little girl self know that this existed? No, you know? So our dharmas are unique and no one else has done it before. So no one can tell you what it is, because even I can't tell you what it is, because you're going to be the first person to have ever lived it, right? Because we are all creating our dharmas in real time. We are the first ever. We're like going through a jungle with a machete and no one knows the path in front of us. We just have to trust that it exists. And now having coached thousands of people on this, I know that it exists. I know for a fact that every single person has a Dharma. I know for a fact that you were born for a very specific reason to raise the vibration of the planet in only a way that you can. And that your gifts, your obstacles, your interests, your shadows, your ancestry, your passions, they are all there for a reason, and they are all there to support your Dharma. I believe this more than anything in my entire life. And I've seen miracles happen of people remembering their Dharma so quickly through doing Dharma coaching. So if you're feeling some type of way, that means you are remembering your Dharma right now. And I'm super excited to be able to support you. And whether it's just through reading my book or through actually studying with me in the Dharma certification. So I'll have those all linked below. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. This was so much fun. I absolutely loved the Xenon astronaut suit. I loved our honey moment. We got kind of lost in the sauce there, but it's okay. That's what this podcast is all about. We keep it real up in here. So leave a review and share your questions with me that you would love for me to answer in future episodes. So just head over to like the podcast app. If you have a Apple device, the podcast app, scroll to the bottom, says write a review. Write your review, share with me your question, take a screenshot and email it over to me so I can send you the gift. Sahara@IamSaharaRose.com. You can find that email and all the links I mentioned today in the show notes. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you in the next one.
Trust your intuition, trust your inner wisdom, trust your inner guidance. Close your eyes and listen. Surrender, let go. So trust your intuition, trust your inner wisdom, trust your inner guidance. Close your